King 10 off, going to mostly fold, occasionally 4-bet, and we rolled a 14. So, in position, I like significantly smaller sizes. So yeah, something like 2.2x is good. Good flop. We will start with a small bet, which we would basically do with range here. Turn will be interesting, assuming call. So this is a line I've seen quite a lot recently. I think our hand is just very standard call and put the stack in. Well, I'm gonna make it easy on us. So the question is, do I call and let him potentially bluff off? I think the answer is yes. That's a funny river. Okay. Yeah, I was going to say, so that's a line I've seen a few times recently, and and I have had hands that wanted to fold. And when I have gone back and checked after they have been completely random hands, which we see there again with ace 10 offsuit, which the first time he raised looks pretty good. After that, I would not make any of the plays he did. But, okay. Apparently I have the opportunity to become famous. I think I'm good. Is there a way to... Ah, yes, good question. So Iceman Lowell, maybe, says, will it have a GTO Wizard giveaway? So typically these streams do have a GTO Wizard giveaway at the end. I was supposed to tell you at the start. There will not be one this week. So Paula, who usually runs the giveaways, is traveling, and so she can't be here. And so we're taking one off for the GTO Wizard giveaways, unfortunately. I will tell you in the chat too. Okay, here we'll bet on a 1. Our hand will bet quite often anyways. It's got some backdoors, it's got some blockers to continuing range, so. And we would barrel some cards, but that is very much not one of them. Good card for out of position, and does absolutely nothing for us. Now, if anything, we block some of his weaker hands, not his stronger ones, so we will check back. We will bluff some rivers. That one. Man, we're getting the funny boards today. Yeah, I don't know. Intuitively, this hand feels like it should check and accomplishes little to nothing by betting. So I will check, but it pretty much feel exactly the same on the turn as I did on the flop. So I think we will continue to check. Depending on sizing, we might peel one. I think you will see some weaker players who will bet their like pocket 3s through 8s, just to try to avoid a bad river coming off. And now we're going to go for the Explo tiny bet to get value from specifically those hands I just mentioned. It's a bit bigger than I would have liked. Or just right. And he had pocket 4s. Interesting board. I think we'll just start with a bet. We'll consider turning this one into a bluff, potentially, on some runouts. But this board is just so good for our under the gun range. I think we just bet everything. 84. I mean, it's pretty tempting, but it probably does not. It probably does not pure bet. Versus 3x. Yeah, we'll make the slightly loose peel. Okay. Jack 5 suited is just a touch loose, and especially multi-way. I don't think we want to play this hand multi-way at all. Again, it's tempting to be like, oh, look at the great pot odds I have now, but there's almost no board that you're happy to see with this hand. Even a flush 4 ways, if a ton of money goes in, it's not a great hand. I don't think we'll do really any raising here. We could, you could maybe have a small raising range, but especially in a spot where the early position raiser is probably checking range. Jesus. Okay, I guess we're done here. I don't know. We will stay and watch. I mean, this size to me, this sizing really feels like set, and this sizing feels like lower flush. But I mean, I don't think it's a good play with a set. But from my Bodog experience, okay, well, we're on today. Yeah, I will. There's one thing I will say for the Bodog players that some many of them, and obviously, it's just some of them, and I don't know who they are because of the anonymity, but some of them have some pretty serious bet timing tells or bet sizing tells, and I think that that's a pretty good example where you get the monster raise because he has a set, and there's three spades. If another one comes, that's really bad. He had the third best hand, but yeah, nice that we were able to get away for just one small bet. High frequency, probably pure check on the turn. It's interesting because he will float a bunch of aces on the flop, but most of them have the ace of hearts in them. So I actually think this is a spot where it's very easy to overbluff. Yes, he has some hearts, but he has about approximately 1 million gut shots. That's an unfortunate card. I think it's also one where he will be somewhat inclined to give up. Okay, so he did have some random ace. I think that's a little too loose on the flop. But I also think it's a spot where you can get away with being a little bit too loose. So I don't hate his play. I think his turn bet is fine and good. Yeah. Doesn't have to pure bet the turn, but on that river, I expect people to play very honestly in position, just because so much of my turn check call range is going to have a heart. Here we're going to 4-bet. And here we will bet and likely put in some barrels. Not the flop we're hoping for. I still think we get to get away with betting range for small here. We're seeing this again. Yeah, I still think we peel 1. Especially if it's going to be a king. And on this one, I think we jam. This board is just so dry. He can have the pocket tens. He can have the ace queen. He can even have king x of diamonds that are just hands that are going to put the money in now. It's hard to have total air. And nice to hit one-outers. I like his play. I think his play throughout the hand is good. But yeah, on the turn especially, I think it's just, and looking back at it, maybe flop is optimistic. I'm being a little skewed by the hand I saw last time. I think that the most important part of this hand, and where I think what I have screwed up, is that we're under the gun +1, so hijack versus big blind. Ranges are just so much tighter there than they are in the other hand. It was small blind versus button, right? So it's just harder for him to pick the hands that are going to bluff. Like, what's he going to do? Take jacks and turn those into a bluff? Maybe, but it's a little harder to come up with them. Whereas when you have a million combos of, well, apparently as bad as ace 10 off on this other one. So I think probably I can just fold flop without a diamond. But instead I decided to turn the one-outer. So that was fine too. Easy call here. Jesus. Easy 3-bet, obviously. We are just getting run over with the deck. And he checks the turn. I think we just go big here. Yeah, we will have some weak hands that floated flop. I think our hand is basically the nuts. And I think there are a bunch of hands that can hero and fewer hands that are gonna reopen. Like, I think we're looking for some semi-light calls. He had king queen, which is fine. That's the kind of hand, like, I don't think there's a ton of hands that we're going to get into check raise against. And I do think he can have a lot of just, random air that stab flop that's going to mostly give up. And so we're really targeting the hands that either have turned a river to pair or are those kings that have raised flop and will call river. Call a bigger bet than they will make if we check. And relatively easy for us to come up with some bluffs, and we're going to have to float a lot of ace highs and backdoors on the flop. Mostly folding in these positions. We seem to be attempting to set some kind of record for number of queens plus and 2-pair plus in a session. Sadly, we lost a stack with one of them, but I don't think I get to complain. Pool looks pretty decent. We've seen a couple random button clickings. You could argue one or two of them was me, but whoops, I thought that was an open, so I clicked fold. But I think versus open limp, I think I like ISO with ace 9. Bottom of range probably, but so yeah, last session, this will mix. We'll call on the high roll. Last session we went 800 hands with no stacks going either way. I think we've won 4 and lost 1 maybe in what can only be maybe 300 hands. Pure call here, obviously. We have to be a little careful though versus big bet on a super connected board. I'm not as excited with a second pair good kicker as I would normally be. We'll just fold to a bet on this turn. We have plenty of pair plus equity hands. What's going on here? This is not a good sign. I mean, okay, looks like maybe it's him. We will not be a jerk on the turn, but I reserve the right to be a jerk on the river. I mean, I don't know. I don't love doing that, but I feel like it's yeah, it's part of the game, sadly. And on Bodog especially, where you can have, I've had many situations where you have 3 tables working totally fine, and the 4th one times out and you lose. Iceman Lowell says, I sent 20k hands to the selection process at NL10. Do you think it's a good amount for it? Win rate greater than 3 big blinds per 100. So that's a solid win rate. You'd have to ask Max about the selection process. I do the coaching for the English micro guys, but I'm not involved in the selection process. I will say that the guys who have made it to the English, I don't know if any of them are watching. I think a couple watched last time, but very good players, all of them, I think, and solid understanding of the game. So, I mean, that's a solid win rate for NL10. I know when I applied for BrPC, I think they wanted 50k, but I'm not sure what it is for micro. So if that's not enough, I mean, keep it up. 3 big blinds per 100, more than 3 big blinds per 100, you'll be moving up stakes in no time. And yeah, keep going. One thing that Max has told me a couple of times that I'm slowly coming around to is that win rate matters a lot, and a lot more than volume. So I was doing all my playing on stars, where, I mean, stars is nice. It's easy to put in the volume, but my win rate in those games is definitely not what my win rate in these Bodog games is. And so even though I'm putting in a little less volume here, I think it is paying off in just smaller swings. I had some long and difficult break even in stretches and downswings playing 200 zoom. And you know, while the overall win rate looks fine, those are tough to deal with. Whereas, you know, you play, this is an interesting one. You play in games where your win rate is significantly higher, and I don't know about this sizing. And yeah, the swings are a little easier to deal with for sure. So yeah, I would focus mostly on the win rate. Over 3, that's a good sign. And yeah, keep it up. On that 10-8 of diamonds hand again, I mean, I'm not going to try to comment on what optimal strategy looks like on a double paired board 3-way. I assume we don't get to bet huge, even though I think we will have by far the most queens. I think ace 4 kind of likes betting. I know we rolled high, but I'm still gonna lean towards betting in some spots, and I think this is a reasonable one. And then we'll just give up, especially on that card. Yeah, I think think we just bet all of our aces. Pretty easy to come up with bluffs. That's a good hand. Ace 4. Yeah, I think there are some boards where we check back some rivered pairs of aces here. And potentially that's one of them. Here I like big better check. And so this hand will be near pure check. And I think just pure call. Turn. I mean, it wouldn't be a hand without us making 2 pair. So we hit the river. Versus very large bets, we will just call. Versus normal size bets, we will go for the raise. I think his sizing makes King X extremely likely. And so we will raise the size to target that. Definitely he will have some bluffs too. But I think the bigger value hands, you will see generally bet for bigger sizes than that. Five, 6 suited will do some of both. If we face an open. Versus limp, I'll probably just pure raise. So on a 70, I think we'll call. Typically I play something close to 50-50 with this hand. I'm a little more inclined to raise with the deeper stacks. But I think still on 70 we'll call. And now we'll do some raising, some calling. We rolled at 12, so we will raise. Something 3x-ish makes sense. We're going to have a fairly big advantage in the 4x combos. And we would like to leverage that advantage. How's the pool doing? Yeah, 23 players, so pretty healthy. I guess I could have figured that out from the full tables. It's nice to have some King X in your check back range. We can't see that range here. We rolled high. King Jack, pure fold. And yeah, this hand now just gets to call 2 streets. Nothing else to do. I may consider resetting this stack at some point. I guess there's one other guy who's deep. But one thing I don't like doing in zone, pure call, not super excited, but very easy call. Expect to see a hand like that pretty often. One thing I don't like in anonymous zone is when I am the only very deep person, because, well, first of all, you have no chance of actually playing deep pots against other people, but also everyone knows if there's only one 400 big blind stack and you play hands versus that guy, yeah, you know who you're playing against, but they do not. There was that one other 300 big blind stack though, so we'll keep it for now. And that is certainly just me being paranoid. I don't think it actually matters at all when you rationally think about it, but yeah, I don't know. I get paranoid sometimes. Yeah, this table we've had a little more of the timeouts. It always seems to be someone else. I've just had a couple too many times where I am the person who times out. Very easy bet. Just c-betting range here, I think, for small. Facing the snap call is interesting. I think I'm going to go ahead and bet this one again on the turn. I think the snap call skews a little weak. Although I did get owned by a regular on Stars the other day who I even had a note on him that the snap calls were on the weak side, and specifically I had the note said that the snap calls are on the weak side, but that he is willing to be a hero. So I value bet a little bit then and got snapped off by the nuts. But In retrospect, that one was probably too thin. Like, if I hadn't looked at the note, I would have checked it back. But yeah, the downside of taking notes. It looks like we ice out a limper here. I think this hand can do anything. Hey, Lissandro, welcome to the stream. Teaching you guys how to flop 2-pair plus and get stacks. Or one time lose a stack, but mostly get a stack with 2-pair plus. So I would defend here versus 2.5 versus 3. Things get a little bit dicey here. Checking range 4 ways. Yeah, we'll defend occasionally, but I don't think you want to pure defend versus 3x from the cutoff. And yeah, we'll continue to check. Every once in a while we will win a showdown. Mostly we will not. Well, now we definitely will not. And now actually I think I like bluffing. How big do I want to go? Let's go big. Here, probably just range. I think we get people to fold ace highs. Yeah, I was a little worried about flushes. You definitely want to have some king highs in your check back range. Some king highs, some top pairs. And then river, I think our hand is effectively the nuts, and so I will treat it as such and bet fairly big. I don't think we want to go completely crazy, sizing-wise, but definitely worth an overbet. Loads of 9x and worse that can call us. Probably I'm getting a little out of line with the 5s here, with the 5-4 suited here, but I prefer to err on the side, or sorry, with the pocket 5s. Yeah, I prefer to err on the side of bluffing there. Realistically, probably you should have a diamond or something. We're going to have a lot of hands just like that to choose from. I think that's one where, I can't remember who it was who told me this, but like having some idea of what your autopilot is like is useful. So my autopilot is a nit. And so when I spot spots for bluffs, I try to err on the side of making myself go for it. Because I know that many times I will just, you know, I will just check and I won't take the spot. So if I think it's a good spot and I see it, then I go for it. This hand can call sometimes. I never know which one of these to use, right? It was like 67 when I first looked, and then it immediately switched. So I don't know. We'll fold on 83. I think it's actually time to turn off this speaker. So Iceman, if you're still watching, Lissandro here is a member of the BrPC micro team and recently moved up from, I think, NL10 to NL25. Good results at the start anyways. Simp999 Lord says, hey, do you do hourly coaching? I don't at the moment. This thing can do everything. We rolled high, so I will fold. I don't do hourly coaching. I have, in my entire life, I have given 1 hour of paid private coaching, and yeah, I have not done it since. Also, as part of my contract, I don't do it either. Part of my contract with the BrPC, but even if I weren't, the answer would still be no. I do make run-at-once videos, so if you have a Run It Once account, you can see my kind of my study process and see my videos reviewing other players, but no private coaching, no. Here with the Jack 2, I think we just have pretty clear check. And pretty clear check on the river as well. It's possible you can get away with like betting one big blind and try to get looked up by random 6x, 4x, 3x. But I expect it to get checked around and win pretty often. I'll tell you if we beat anything interesting. Queens here, we'll do some 4-betting and some calling. At 56, we will call. Wow. On the button, we would pure 4-bet, or I would pure 4-bet. Funny hands. So we might have gotten a call from the 9-6 there. Half pot, not really a thing on mono boards. Our hand, obviously pure call. 2 outs to the nuts. No. We'll call turn as well, and then mostly fold river will be the plan. I can imagine him betting in the size where, like, if he like pots it or something, which he almost did. Yeah, I mean, I think our hand is just still a call. I am quite scared of that size, though. And yeah, I think our hand's pretty clear fold. We'll have a bunch of slow plays in this line. And I think versus that sizing sequence, I think we can actually fold the king queens without a spade on the turn. I don't think we need to try hard to defend at all there. And honestly, maybe I can just fold turn. Like, I think, again, this reminds me of the hand earlier where we folded a flush. Where I think people are just very face up with their big bet sizings on mono boards. I think the only, I think the bluffs, quote unquote bluffs that you will see there are will have the ace of spades in them. And that's pretty much just ace of spades queen, which is 2 combos, and like maybe ace of spades jack as well. So there's 3 others. So max 5 bluff combos, and then he's got all of the aces with the spade, all the ace of spades king, all of the pocket 10s, all the pocket 9s, all the pocket kings. So yeah, honestly, my queens of the spade don't look great. Here, I think we can start with big-ish. I don't think you want to overbet in these positions because big blind can have some ace-queen, but definitely a board where you can use some overbets if you open in later position. And then this is a spot where you have to go super polar, and I think our hand does not particularly like to go for it here. We just take our bit of equity. Yeah, we're basically done with this hand, barring jack. Villain's calling range on the flop includes all of the ace-x. Oops, what is going on? Includes all of the ace-x and not a whole lot else. Like, a lot of queens have to fold to that size. I'm lost in this hand, but I'm guessing we open, yeah, call, check turn on the flop. Very easy check call on the turn. Could have bet as well. I'm not sure. I wasn't sure we got to the turn, so I don't know what I was thinking on the turn.